Hey Jeff, thanks for being here. You and I met last summer. We were both working at the same Western Saloon in Silverton, Colorado. It's been around since the 1880s. You were playing piano, and I was bartending while I worked on putting together my mini course on making scrappy but efficient videos. And then you and I started shooting some music videos, talking creative projects and how video plays a part. And then going into the fall, I finished my mini course, like the first version of it, and I sent it to you to give it a test drive. And then you moved to Florida for the winter, and you started putting together some other videos of your own. So, can you just tell us a little about yourself and what kind of creative work you do?
Yeah. Thanks, Brady. So I met Brady working in this tiny industrial mining town in Colorado, and I was playing the piano. We worked at the same bar, and uh, I got interested in creative first by music because I play the piano. But really, I think what I brand myself to other creatives is as a copywriter, um, because I really enjoy storytelling and taking information, whether it's a story or it's technical and you need to teach someone something and you have to organize it in a way that pulls their logical brain and their creative brain along so they're actually doing learning. I actually have a background in engineering, and so the first 5 years I was out of school, I was doing consulting, and it's kind of in the same vein as like mind share with someone. And so back then I kind of thought my career was going more towards speaking and engagement facilitation, and meeting Brady, playing piano, and some of these new things has been my journey into video.
Cool. So, like, when would you say is like the first time when you first got interested in video, or when did you first start experimenting with it?
Well, I might be a narcissist or have some other kind of problem because I have just always been taking videos. And I think, when Snapchat came out, I was in college and they would do this thing like Campus Story. And so, like, you could share your videos to everyone. And I was kind of always, I say that I was born to be an actor, cursed to be a video editor, because I loved being, just entertaining and being silly and funny and stuff like that. So I kind of was always taking videos, and kind of to a fault because I would always take videos but kind of never engage with the actual editing, processing, and then delivery of them. I wasn't thinking about that. And so I got into editing very backwards, and with not a lot of experience. So I was sort of seeking, people like Brady and other resources to build my learning curve.
Nice. Yeah, that's funny that you say. I don't think you're a narcissist just because you're shooting video. I think everyone does that. Like, we live in an age where like technology's gotten there where like everyone can just shoot a video now.
Right.
And we'll talk about that later. There's something we had talked about before this call, but um, how did you feel like so in that phase of your video before you took the first version of my mini course, the Scrappy Creator's Guide to Simplifying Video, which it had a different name when you took it. It was you took the first version. I've since expanded it and shot like video modules and stuff. How did you feel about making video then before you took that course?
Well, I like I said, I always took video. I always took voice notes. I always journaled, like collected stuff. I was kind of like almost a pack rat, you could say. And when I would spend time editing things, it was kind of just like smashing it all together without much like form or process. And that could be interesting, but it's not like very marketable. And anytime you want to create something, you're kind of starting from scratch. So I think, you know, I suffered in a way from just collecting footage and never really working or seeing the other stages to the process, because I think when you are editing something or you're forced to make a video that's not just for you, that's for like a specific target, then you really have to, you become aware of the things in the beginning when you're first shooting or when you're first planning to shoot, of how to bring it full circle. So don't be like me and just amass a horde in the first stage. I think, you really get better by moving things all the way through.
Totally. So I was going to ask you if there was like a barrier that kept you from making videos, but it sounds like you didn't have a barrier. You were driven to create videos, but you didn't really have the process or a process. You just kind of had like the impulse to make something.
Yeah, I don't know if I was someone who was like scared to be in front of a camera so much. Um, but definitely like had a challenge with um I'd say there's definitely a challenge in video because there's so many aspects of it that if you actually start thinking about all the finer points of it, it can kind of eliminate some of that actor energy I liked to be in. So that's definitely my struggle. I don't really have a problem being in front of the camera, but it's like when the camera's rolling and then I got to go make sure this is going and making sure this is going, all that stuff kind of gets really complicated and can mess up the originality of what you're trying to do already.
So would it be accurate to say like before when you were making these early videos, you didn't really have a structured process down? You just it
Yeah.
was kind of more experimental.
Yeah, just experimenting.
What changed for you with video when you went through my course or after you'd gone through my course?
Well, I had a lot of experience kind of in, like I said, with writing scripts. In fact, when I was an engineer, I was making training videos. And so we would write a script to teach some sort of concept, put images and a narrator and stuff, but it wasn't like you're doing cinematography. It wasn't like you're using a camera or, going for a lot of depth and feel. So honestly, the first thing I had to figure out was just learning how to use a camera, learning what f-stop was. And even, it's kind of like as I started to learn a camera, I realized that a lot of the stuff that you can be proficient in when you're using a camera right here is almost the same skill set that you're using at an editor console later. And it's almost like if you can eliminate mistakes happening here, then when you're pulling them into when you're looking at footage and trying to get an idea of what kind of story you're going to tell, you've already sort of done a lot of that in front of the camera. And these are things that you know know a lot more about because you have industry experience. But just setting up a composition, setting up a light, setting up all this stuff, if you weren't ever exposed to that, then you're inside iMovie, which is what I was using, just wondering why it looks terrible and you're not able to fix it. So just
Yeah,
solving for that stuff up front.
totally. Yeah, that I like kind of learned video and just like it just came at me. Like I had several jobs over the years where it's like they needed video, and I had been interested in narrative filmmaking, so I would just kind of just shoot. But then your editing process would end up being like so long and arduous and painstaking if you screwed up an element of lighting or sound, and it just made way more work. So I over the years, I just kind of realize that you want to incorporate like set up your process when you film to minimize the editing job later, even if you're working with another editor. Um, but yeah, it came down to like making so many mistakes and realizing how can I make this more efficient. And you don't need to be perfect. I was never a perfect filmmaker. Like there's a lot of stuff you can get really technical with, but I really just cared about like capturing the basics, the fundamentals, doing a good job with that, and then being able to put it all together in your final project at the end. So, um, yeah, talking about that, how would you say learning about composition, lighting, and sound, which I say are the three technical pillars of quality video? How would you say learning about those in my course simplified your process?
So out of your pillars, talking about composition and lighting and sound, I heard this great quote that people will watch a movie with bad video, but they won't watch a movie with bad sound. And I've been doing all my filming with an iPhone, so bad video is taken for granted. And it was once I started paying attention to this concept that you can actually enhance a video by grabbing artificial sounds, like just from the internet. And even though they're fake, making the video feel so much more real. And not even just making that one single clip feel real, but when you're trying to put a bunch of clips, a bunch of like scenes into a story and punctuate that story with tension and then removing tension and just it's almost like punctuation. It's like storytelling punctuation. The sound is something that you almost don't even realize that's how fundamental it is. But if you're watching a clip and you feel this low rumble growl, like your caveman instincts tell your brain you're in danger. That's not what your eyes are doing. It's, like it's the hairs on the back of your neck. It's down in your gut. Sound is something that really grabs you.
Totally. Yeah, that's one thing that I learned over the years, is the importance of sound because it triggers like your emotional journey.
Mm.
And I worked at a small tech company for a couple of years, and we'd shoot ads, VSLs, organic YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff. But like for the ads, where you're paying for traffic and eyeballs, you really need to keep attention because people want to skip. But if it's interesting, you can hook them. But like so much of that came down to the sound,
Mm.
and I kind of tried to edit them like a movie trailer. So like you get like a certain song for a little bit, and then when the message or the mood changes, I'd cue up a different song, and then I'd hit like some kind of sound effect that just kind of grabs your attention and like keeps you engaged. That was the goal anyway.
Well, yeah, and I can even think of counterexamples where I didn't do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're trying to make a clip pop and it's just not doing it, but then you add some sound, some song, and then it's totally there and the
Mm-hmm.
vision's back.
Yeah, yeah. Sound is so important with
So I
video.
mean, if you're just starting out and you're trying to put together whatever kind of movies in your head, it it can be so much more difficult if you don't know about that sound layer and how to create what you're looking for there.
Totally. Do you have any story that kind of captures the importance of your creative approach, but using like limited tools, like pretty much being minimalist but efficient? Do you have any examples from your experience shooting videos?
Well, I'm speaking to someone who maybe wants to be scrappy and they don't need to be polished, they don't need to make films, whatever, but they do want to get started with something. And I think the main thing for those people is they can start learning about all the things they need to do to have perfect videos, perfect delivery, everything. And that can be overwhelming. And realistically, those people just need one thing to maybe move them one step forward, solve one problem for them. And I think the reason that we can spend a lot of time struggling is because we get knocked down by frustration. So, I mean, there's like a couple tools that I use that really helped me get moving. And one of them was just buying a stabilizer because I was still using my iPhone. But then once I was actually trying to make something, the type of movie that is soul or, you know, still and grabs your attention and and like keeps you locked in there and you see the frame kind of jittering. It's like once I got the stabilizer and I could like control my shots and start, poking around for what I wanted to find in the scene, hold it there. That totally gave me a bunch of new ideas to add into my toolkit. So just a few simple tools I think can really get people going in their own creative direction.
Yeah, it's kind of like the metaphor of like carving a sculpture. You can use different sized tools to make a certain form or make a certain shape. And I feel like that's such a good metaphor for like video and editing. You don't need to start with like everything, like the whole big picture. You can focus in on like the area where maybe you're weakest or need the biggest growth and just improve that in just a little bit. You don't need to go for perfection, but just learning how to do that element of video or editing well can go a long way in just improving the quality of your video.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you use the example of a sculpture. I had a one of my good friends is kind of a famous blacksmith. She has a forge, and so sometimes she would have these big sculptures in her workshop, and I would go help her. And a lot of the work on these big, magnificent sculptures is actually pretty tedious. It's like, okay, now I need to spend 10 hours buffing this down so that it looks smooth and polished. Jeff, come over and help me. And so I was basically doing like this easy tasks, and even those sometimes where I would like use whatever, like a grinder. I don't even know the names of them, but when I would use my tool and it wouldn't look as smooth as when Betsy did it, and I was like trying to eye it better, trying to like play with all the, and then Betsy would just be like, "You're using the wrong tool. Pick a softer brush, and then you're not going to dig into the metal so much." And that was Betsy's thing, like the way she was able to put together these huge sculptures, and was because she could visualize, I guess, each of the stages in between and know, like, okay, this stage, you're just taking a big piece of granite or whatever, and you're just getting a rough cut. So don't use your, like, little detail tool. Use a chainsaw, right? And I totally like that metaphor for video because you said it. It's like, having a workflow in video means like having a organized way to take big ideas and make them small and get and isolate what you're trying to say. But a lot of times if you just capture videos and then dump them into a timeline, you're like going between you're trying to go between the eagle eye and like in the weeds, and it's chaotic.
Totally. Yeah, I try to have a solid plan before I shoot so I know what I'm going to shoot, what my at least outline structure is, and then have done a couple tests so that I make sure I get the composition, lighting, and sound right. I do them each individually though, so that's like the part focusing on one part of the sculpture at a time. But then when you do that, it saves so much work in the end because then you're not trying to sort through all this footage, a bunch of different takes. Like maybe you're not clear on your messaging or what you're trying to say in the video, or you got to reshoot if you screwed something up. But I think just focusing on one piece at a time creates the bigger whole, and that allows you to put together good footage, good sound, and you have a quality video.
Yeah, and the value, I think, for someone who's thinking about a course like this is just to have all of those, hey, remember this, checkpoint, hey, don't, watch out for this pitfall. Having just a refresh or having something as like a quick checklist can really save them a lot of time that way. I mean, like, because, I'm a piano player, and sometimes I want to skip I just want to sit down and play something. And I'll suck. I won't know what to play. And as soon as I kind of go back to just some of my really foundational exercises, those exercises are meant to kind of, pull you into the experience. And so I think your checklist kind of reminds me of that because it's like all the foundations to think about. And so that you don't get too sucked into one.
Cool. Yeah, glad it was helpful. How do you feel about video now after finishing the course?
So I actually just took on my first video client. It's a chiropractor named Thoracic Park, and it's got like the whole Jurassic Park font and logo and everything. So
Awesome.
It's a hilarious. It's like Hollywood idea, perfect.
Yeah.
And I could just see the market potential, but just creativity aside, you have to go in, you have to get dialed in points of them talking. You've got to organize that into a library. You've got to, in this case, I had to actually make sure that I could spend 3 days with them and get everything I need in order to run their socials and some of their marketing stuff. So a film project can be a lot the same, because you don't just need like that one shot or just to be out there with a video camera. Like, you really do need to think ahead. And if it's, for example, a movie about driving, a road trip, you might not think about it, but you need shots of like turning the keys in the car. You need shots of hearing the engine start up. And so just being a little bit more organized with how do your film process of taking all that raw stuff, organizing it, putting it into small pieces. I think being a little more efficient and organized, this course helped me a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, you said when you started, you were like, it was pretty much just kind of like shoot from the hip. You had the impulse to create videos, but you didn't really have a solid plan, and it didn't turn out as effective as it could as if you plan ahead and just follow a simple system.
Yeah, and I still kind of do that. I mean, I like to sort of just jump in and get things that look cool. But then there is definitely a period once you look at everything you got, and then you have to make some decisions about what sort of story you're going to tell. Like when I was filming this chiropractor, and he was, a lot of the footage I had was him telling me about all the equipment he uses. And that ended up, when I'm looking at it on my screen, being boring. And so I found that, some of these videos I took over here, which we only spent a little bit of time on, but they're the back cracking and the eye candy videos. So next time we were able to really dial in that element and make sure we were getting the assets to tell that story. But yeah, that's what filmmaking is. It's getting up close and just like, being like at that ant level of things that catch your attention, and then zooming out and trying to put together a story, trying to relate to different audiences, make sure it's cohesive and it ties together. But you have to be able to zoom back and forth. So that's about your workflow. That's about efficiency. And it even comes down to simple things. It's about like, how do I name files? How do I organize directories? And what's a good, like, I was making the stupidest mistake of all. When you're using iMovie, every time you drag files into iMovie, it actually duplicates them. So eventually your computer just stops working because it's full of all these files buried in your operating system. So, I mean, I could list like 5 just enormous mistakes I was making because I didn't have a resource to just tell me, no, actually, go do it this way. It's a lot simpler.
Yeah, I used to learn the hard way too, but yeah, the hard drive, I put all my files on here and edit from that, and it speeds things up so much.
Yeah.
Um,
And filmmaking is such a specialty thing. Like, there's so many parts of it that having a workflow, like being able to like borrow your workflow, which is what you've made this course, I think is just a great way to get someone on their feet.
awesome. Yeah, glad to hear. So I was gonna ask if you've noticed like results creatively, professionally, or personally. It sounds like you did professionally. You got a first video client, so it's some paid work, and stuff you can use in your portfolio. But what about creatively and personally, like for your music? Has your music, the videos you create to promote your music, improved in any way?
Well, I'll tell you this. I deleted 60 gigabytes of files this morning, which is like insane, especially for someone who hoards videos. But sometimes I will spend a day making a music video, and it's like crazy intense because you have to have like 4 camera angles, and you have to also be capturing the sound. And even before you start taking the video, you got to go check the sound, and there's like 1,000 things to worry about. So I've literally spent a whole day setting it all up, getting the shots I need, and then getting back to my computer and realizing it's garbage.
Huh.
So honestly, being able to call it quits early, or recognize when like you're trying to turn, what do they say, like trying to turn shit into,
Gold.
yeah, like trying to polish poop or something.
It's
you
better
know like
to
it,
get gold from the beginning.
yeah, right, yeah, it's like if you get stuck in like, I need to make this work, then you're just, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I think to bring it back to your question, just knowing ahead of time what's going to work, what's not going to work. Oh, you want to do a video of someone playing piano? Well, you're going to need just put a microphone right up next to it. And there's all these, like, I think to make that kind of video, if it's a music video, if it's a car video or whatever, you do kind of want one camera shot or one microphone placement that's going to make that work. Because otherwise you're going to just get videos back and it's going to look like cars. It's not going to blow your mind. But with filmmaking, you really can get creative with where's the hook? What am I using to really capture the essence of something?
Yeah. What is the element in this visual or the sound that's going to be the most interesting to an audience or a viewer?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's room for some experiment there. I mean,
Totally.
like when you see, the first one that came to mind is Fantastic Mr. Fox, but any stories of making films, like some of your favorite films have really scrappy ways that they went out to go get. Like I was listening to a Willie Nelson song yesterday, and I asked ChatGPT what the reverb was on Willie Nelson's harmonica because it sounded so great. And sure enough, there was no reverb, but he went into a bathroom, like a tile bathroom.
Crazy.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's like all these creative things people are doing in film.
That's cool. That's good note for ChatGPT. I've been using it in new and creative ways. This is just side note, but you could like ask how a song or a movie was produced instead of like combing the internet for it. I have
Yeah.
ChatGPT do it. You can get the info quick.
Yeah. And, the way I've been using, because I'm always buying new music gear and stuff. And so I would just have ChatGPT teach me it. But you also sort of need something to get you started a little bit in order to know what questions to ask, in order to know like maybe the film editing terms of what you're trying to do. And I think your guide kind of has all that
Cool. Yeah.
of an overview.
Nice. Yeah. I tried to keep it condensed, like everything you need, but not overload. Hopefully it came out that way.
Yeah, totally. I think it helps people just put themselves into it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, speaking about the course, if there's someone on the fence about wanting to learn video and just simplify their process and boost their skills, maybe they're feeling like overwhelmed or like they're not good enough, what would you say to them?
Well, I think if someone is feeling discouraged from their artistic dream, because I like to think that like everyone is a filmmaker, everyone has a message, and everyone is trying to convey that message. But a lot of times, the discouragement you're talking about is the frustration that gets in the way. And sometimes we feel like, our videos don't look like the ones we see on social media. And we have such a high skill curve to climb in order to be competitive with those. But the truth is that's not true. You have your own way the videos are going to look. There are maybe some basic fundamentals to keep in mind. And the way I like to think about it is when you use video, you have to work in layers because there's a layer of capture, there's a layer of synthesizing, there's a layer of putting your special effects or your special, sauce on it. And so just to have a way to kind of separate these concerns and know that, and not to get overwhelmed, basically, if you're in the beginning stages and it doesn't look like the video you're expecting. Well, that's because it's in a later stage. And so just having someone else's process can be a really good tool for someone who keeps running into that wall of letting frustration take away their passion.
Yeah, that's not a great thing. Frustration or overwhelm stops you from bringing some vision you have to life. And video is such a great way to do it because you can really capture so much info and it's so engaging for people.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, I want to go back to that metaphor you brought up, or that statement. Everyone has an inner filmmaker. What does that mean to you? Because I don't know. I feel like everyone has a story to tell. And video is a great way to do it, but there's like so much comparison. Like we might compare ourselves to someone else's video, but anyone can tell their story in their own way using the tools of visual and sound. So yeah, everyone has an inner filmmaker. I agree with that. What does that mean to you?
Well, maybe I'd say everyone has an inner storyteller.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like, to tell an excellent story, it always starts with a character we can identify with, having, and then going from point A to point B. Um, and a lot of the mistakes people make in the technical world of trying to convey an idea from point A to, a learning concept is they think that in order to teach someone, they have to have all the information. Like it's a problem uh, of not knowing something, but that's not true. Most of our learning happens in a creative way because we go on a journey, and if we are learning from someone, they're actually taking us through that journey. So I think that metaphor applies obviously to film, but it applies to any form of communication or any form of trying to take an idea in your head and put it out into reality, whether you like facilitating events or, you know, building arts and crafts and stuff. Like you need to have a way of refinement. And so the first rough draft you make is inexcellent. It's imperfect, but you know what to look for in the second edits, you know what to look for in the third edits. So video imitates the same process of having different stages, but I think that is a creative process, and I think you use it when you're trying to build, plan a trip, or you're trying to do lots of different things. So I think in this film has taught me how to combine a really technical craft with a really, overarching mission statement of getting a message out, and work between those and not let myself be locked as just someone who knows the technicals and not someone who can see the big picture.
So you kind of touched on this already, but why would you say video is such a powerful tool for musicians, creators, online entrepreneurs, anyone really trying to share some message online? Why is video so powerful?
Well, I think video is the way we all socialize now. Do any of us still have real friends? I mean, whether you like it or not, video is where clout takes place, like the online platforms. And, you know, we don't all need to look the same on those video platforms to stand out, but we do need to have some ability to articulate ourselves in the digital realm. And I think like tools like AI actually help us eliminate the things that we're not good at, and and tell our stories using video. But you still need to kind of know how to coach those AI tools. So, in the next 5 years, I bet your phone could automatically be taking videos on your camera roll and, adding them to your digital brand. But you're going to be in a position of like being a director. So, I mean, video is sort of the way that a lot of us are thinking about our careers, or thinking about building a brand that we want to be part of our lives.
Totally. I don't know. I think video is just one of the most effective ways to communicate with an audience, or with people of your world who are going to care about what you're interested in, what you have to say, what you're trying to promote or do. And sometimes people might not know their mission, what they're trying to create, but I think the process of creating, just consistently getting in the habit, learning, you'll start to find what that is, and you'll find your edge and what makes you unique. And so I think creating is a great process, and video can be really complicated, but there are ways to simplify it. Especially like you said, the tools are getting better. AI editing has changed things. Editing by transcript has made my job so much quicker and easier. So yeah, I think video is super powerful. Um,
Nice.
what?
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Yeah, so I just have a couple other things I want to say, but before I wrap up, Jeff, if people want to check out your films, your music, where can they do that? And can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, definitely check out my YouTube channel. It's got videos from like when I was messing with my brothers 15 years ago. It's got some history on it, but a lot of interesting things there. I'm also
What's the YouTube channel name?
uh it was before YouTube channel had they
Okay,
had names.
I'll
I
drop a
think it's
link to it.
yeah, it's pursuing perspective, but it gets buried.
There'll be a link below the video.
I just finished my first film that I'm showing actually this week. So in a couple days, I'm hosting kind of a viewing party. We're doing kind of a beta test, sort of like a live read, and people are kind of giving me some organized feedback and stuff. Um, Brady, why don't we show them the music video we made together? Because we made this really cool. There's this really cool venue at Silverton where we met, and it's this old electrical warehouse. They call it the powerhouse, and it's got these big tall ceilings, like this big window light. I have it up.
Oh yeah, you have it up? You share it then.
Yeah.
I was just trying to find it.
Yeah, he's up on.
That funky.
There's Brady.
Oh yeah,
You saw him sneak in there. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, yeah. So
wait, at least show some of the rap lines.
Oh, the rap.
It's a couple lines.
Now you gotta work hard, now that's a given. Get to school, get a job, make a living. They say to live life, you must be driven. But sometimes I think that life's not really living. I think of these questions in my brain, so much that it causes me strain. So here, let me step out of my lane. So here I go again. So we walk hard.
I don't want to see the rest of it.
I love it. I love the lyrics in this. It's a great song. I'll drop a link to the full video if everyone wants to check it out too.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun filming that in that giant, enormous.
Oh, it's such a good venue. Hopefully we can film some more stuff there or do some live stuff. I got to practice more. But yeah, so I'll drop links to Jeff's YouTube channel, that video, the trailer for his film. I'll drop a link to that too. And then whenever that goes public and the full film's viewable, I'll update the description so you guys can check out the link. And yeah, if anyone also wants to learn a simple but efficient video process and start shooting videos to share your message online, you can check out my mini course that I just put together. It's brand new. It's super affordable. And you also get a discount on my scripting templates that come with it if you want, that you can literally just plug in a little bit of information, answering a couple questions. And you can manually do it, or you can drop it in ChatGPT and get it like a structured script that you can customize as needed for any type of video that you shoot. So that's on my Gumroad store. I'll put a link to that. The mini course is called the Scrappy Creator's Guide to Simplifying Video. And then if you need like a little more assistance, I'm offering like video mentorship, but you can just do a free clarity call with me and we'll talk through your goals and go through what you're trying to accomplish. And I'll help you map out what kind of videos you should focus on, what your strategy should be, and where you should prioritize your efforts to realize those goals with video. So yeah, there'll be links to both those below the video as well. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in and watching this. And Jeff, thanks for doing this with me. This was my first interview.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, definitely, man. Anything. I think you're super talented, and
Likewise.
you do. Yeah, and you get so much stuff done. You know, I make one film every 3 years. That's basically my bandwidth.
I've
You
been
do that
slacking on my video because I've been making this course. I was like, how can I like document the process, but then also shoot and edit all these videos? I can't. So I did like stop social media for pretty much the winter. I've been making some like nature reels about some of my travels or snowboarding, but I'm gonna get back on it from the date of this video and start making more stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you could give a crash course in just getting all that stuff done because seriously, all the stuff you just named takes me like a year.
well, I'm trying to be more efficient with like video and creative stuff. Or, I'm sorry, not video, music, and get in touch with my creative side again. So you inspired me with that, and it'll be awesome when you move back here. We can shoot some videos, music videos, and plan some other creative projects.
Yeah, I'll be back in a week.
Awesome. Can't wait. Cool. Well, yeah, this is the way we sign off, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, check back soon for more interviews with people about the creative process. Adios.